Just south of Markarth, there lies a mysterious cavern inside the mountains. Inside this cavern, a woman begs for your help to recover her lost brother, who's been missing for several days. Just beyond her is a pit, and if you go down this pit, you will experience one of the best written questlines in Skyrim history. Today, I'm going to be covering the Forgotten City completely blind. I never even knew this existed, so without your comments, this video would not have been possible. Previously in this series, I covered Vigilant, which is a massive 30-hour plus experience. I'll link the playlist for all my modded reviews down below. Since the Forgotten City is shorter, I also decided to cover the standalone game, which was actually nominated for Game of the Year in 2021. However, the Skyrim version will be the primary focus of this video. I just wanted to provide a more complete picture for this review. Finally, the mod list I use is Tuxborn, with no extra adjustments. Everything you see today is found in the mod list straight out of box. I'll leave the link to that down below. But with that out of the way, let's begin. Our adventure starts in this mysterious Dwemer ruin just outside of Markarth. Inside, we find Cassia, an Imperial soldier who went delving with her brother, only to lose him to the mysterious pit behind her. She asks for us to venture down and recover him, but before that, I decide to examine the area. Besides a weird Dwemer engraving, nothing here seems too out of the ordinary. However, on a pedestal just before the pit lies a journal dating back about 10 years before the start of Skyrim. This was written by a man named Metellus, who was able to translate that odd inscription we saw previously.
It reads, "Those who seek refuge will find peace here, basking in the sun under the ground. Those who seek gold will find riches beyond imagining, but will pay for this folly with their lives, for there is no return to the world of man."
This man believes the dwarves may still be alive in this ancient city and takes a leap of faith down the pit. The only thing left for us to do is follow him. At the bottom of the pit, there lies a pool of water and a tunnel with an ominous door at the very end. As we pass through this door, we step into a nightmare. A dark, dead, and decrepit city with a man hanging from the only tree. There's a note beside him where he pleads to whomever stumbles across the city to turn around and run.
I have spent a lifetime in this place, going around and around in circles, searching for a way out. But there are only two choices: death or the door to the house on the lake.
This man, Ultrius, went through a magical door and spent a lifetime down here, stuck in an endless loop, reliving the same thing over and over again. He guards the key to the door with his soul in an attempt to dissuade anyone from following his footsteps. It's unclear at the moment if Ultrius is Cassia's missing brother. He makes no mention of her in the letter, but they are both clearly Imperials, and this person did say they were trapped down here for a lifetime, but that would only be possible if time in this place moves differently. Interesting to think about, but it isn't going to solve our problem. We need the key to the house on the lake, and to get it, we need to confront Ultrius's ghost. As we walk through the ruins, this ghost calls out to us.
I was in your shoes once, a lifetime ago. I remember the way the lake house calls to you.
Exploring this massive citadel, we uncover burned corpses scattered in the hallways and rooms. There are several notes and items to be read throughout here, but I'll get back to those when they become relevant. However, for now, it's very clear people used to live here. Not Dwemer, but more recent. As we approach the apex of the building, the ghost pleads once more.
You ignore my words and come searching for the key. Stay away. I hid that key for a reason.
You're making a mistake.
After defeating the ghost, we find a lockbox with the key inside that crumbles beneath our feet as soon as we touch it. We survive with the key and have one last chance to turn back. As we approach the lake house, we're able to enter past the magical barrier and make our way inside. Here, we find another note from Metellus, the same person who left the journal at the mouth of the pit. He essentially says his suspicion was right, and he discovered a long-lost Dwemer city. Under his rule as Jarl, the Forgotten City flourished. He invited people from Skyrim to join, but at the time he's writing the note, they've all become victims of some sort of atrocity, and he's the only one left. He sacrifices his life to open a portal to the past in hopes that us, the reader, will be able to venture back and stop the city from collapse. We turn to exit the door we just entered and are greeted with something completely different. Whoa. This is so cool. Oh, they got the Blackreach artificial sun thing up there too. We're welcomed by a man sitting at the docks, Gulvar. He wonders where we came from, and I lie and say I just got lost. This is where we're first introduced to the law. We'll learn more about this in a moment, but everyone in this entire city is petrified of some kind of rule. So much so, we're told essentially crime is non-existent here. Anyway, Gulvar is a farmer and offers to take us to the Jarl for an introduction. We meet some members of the town on the way in, but once we're inside the citadel, a man named Hjormund sets the tone. Clearly, there is some kind of caste system here, the high and mighty that live in the citadel and the rest of the folk who live in the city to actually keep it afloat. Worth noting, we discovered a letter from Hjormund when we first entered the city and everything was dead. It's addressed to his wife. It's basically an apology for disappearing and leaving her and his son alone. What's interesting about this letter is how he says he would never leave her, yet he's here. Perhaps Hjormund is not here out of his own volition, something we may discover later. Our guide tells us a little bit more about the Dwarves' Law, which essentially says if you steal, kill, or do anything unlawful, everyone in the city will be punished. Who knows how seems more superstition than fact, but everyone seems to believe it, hence no crime. Finally, we meet Jarl Metellus, the man we've been following. He's very inviting, almost too inviting, and gives us a home. We give him the note he wrote, and he recognizes it as authentic. In fact, his wizard Brawl and him have been experimenting with time travel, so this leads him to conclude they were successful. He is also able to finally tell us the Dwarves' law. The many shall suffer for the sins of one, and if that rule is broken, some kind of event will occur, perhaps the event this letter warns us about. Because of this, he appoints us as his personal investigator to figure out who or what is about to break the law and stop it before it happens. This is the end of the prologue, and we're now given free rein to investigate the people of the Forgotten City. This is a murder mystery, and you need to solve it before it even happens. However, there are a lot of people to talk to, and each of them has something of note to remember. I'm going to try my best to frame the conversations of these people in an order that makes most sense narratively. It's not the actual order I spoke to them in, but it should be easier for you to absorb and understand it this way. Ironically, the first person I actually spoke to is the best to kick off the investigation, the daughter of the Jarl, only she's not really his daughter, she's adopted. Again, it begs the question how? Did a child fall into the pit? Was the child abducted like Hjormund's letter suggests? We don't know, but she's clearly pissed about it. Her journal in her room also suggests she knows her father, the Jarl, has many secrets. What they may be, we don't know yet. She also tells us the cook has a skooma addiction, and if I have a bottle, I could get her to tell me the dark secrets of the city. It just so happens I do, and I'm able to get her talking. She spills the beans on several things, of which there's two worth noting right now. A man named Marius is growing plants that can only be used for poisons, and the Jarl requests double rations of food despite a shortage, although the cook doesn't think he's eating both. Interesting. As we exit the citadel, a woman runs up to us screaming of a bandit raid. However, if a bandit kills a single one of the citizens, she's worried the dwarven law will come into effect and kill everyone. After dealing with the bandits, who I guess are exempt from the law, as are we, for some reason, we've improved our reputation in the city. The woman, Miranda, confirms our suspicions of the obvious hierarchy I witnessed on the way in. The people in the citadel amuse themselves all day, while the people below do all the work to keep the city running. She thinks it's racially motivated, as all the citadel inhabitants are Imperials, but we know that's not exactly true because we spoke to a Breton scholar inside who works for a dark elf mage. Good example of unreliable narration that we need to keep track of. Anyway, Miranda and her husband had a son in the city, but he mysteriously died. In their shop, there's a bounty to uncover the son's golden ring, so perhaps something to keep in mind while exploring. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, she tells us that one person was able to escape the city, the wife of a Dwemer, Ulrin, who vanished one night. This is our next lead. The Dwemer is less helpful than we would have hoped, but after an intimidation check, he unveils some important details. His wife took nothing and left nothing behind. She couldn't have been murdered, or the law would have been violated. She may have wandered into the underground tunnels, but why would she do so alone in the middle of the night? Something doesn't add up, but the tunnels running beneath the city seem important. Every shop and nearly every home has a door to the tunnels beneath, all of them locked. If there was something malicious down there, it would be easy for it to have access to most of the town. We decide to investigate further into Ulrin's story by sneaking into his house. Inside, we find a love letter from his wife, clearly indicating she loved him dearly, and a trapdoor poorly hidden under a fur coat. Inside, we uncover a few things of note. Immediately, we find a trail of blood leading from the trapdoor all the way to this corpse. As we turn the corner, we discover a giant skeever nest and have to kill its resident. Inside its stomach is Ulrin's wife's necklace and a skull. Additionally, a key to the underground tunnels, which allow us to open any door down here from this point forward. My initial suspicion was the door right beside the skeever nest was the owner and had something to do with it, but after investigating the owner Luki a bit, I don't think it was her. Seems no one but the Jarl and a select few have access to these tunnels. We inform Ulrin of the bad news. His wife appears to be dead, and he takes this as well as you can expect and asks us to give him some space. The next person I want to talk to is Melissa and her husband. While I was exploring the underground tunnels, I found their son's golden ring in a skeever nest. I return it to the husband, but in the middle of our conversation, I catch somebody lurking in the corner. This is Dooley, an important character and our first interaction with him. He's homeless and a bit simple, but is certain his brother left something valuable for him in a secret chest. He asked everyone around town, including the Jarl, for help, but no one would help him, and the Jarl even told him if he asked again, he would be in trouble. Dooley entrusts us to find this chest, giving us an old key and a clue that it's deep underwater. Finally, a mod that will let me use my Argonian racial ability. Praise the Lord. Before I go for a swim and look for this chest, I decide to investigate the abandoned palace. There are two major structures in the Forgotten City: the Citadel, where the Jarl and his court live, and the palace, which resides inside the mountain face above the lake. Now is a good time for me to tell you about my meeting with Brawl, the city's wizard who I met a while back. He informs us the city was found in the state we saw it previously, dark and full of burned corpses, leading him to conclude the dwarven law was broken before they all moved in. However, there's one area that remained inaccessible: the palace. If we go there, we can also see burned corpses lying around, so clearly there's some kind of mystery here to solve. Anyway, Brawl tells us if we wish to escape the city and return to our time, we essentially need to create a paradox. Either solve the problem we came here for, stopping us from ever needing to arrive, or destroy the problem, also stopping us from ever needing to come back. It's a little complicated, I know, but this is important. Entering the palace requires some parkour, but I'm able to sneak my way across a pipe and drop down inside. In here, we discover a burned corpse with immaculate dwarven gauntlets. These will come up again and are necessary to unlock one of the endings for this mod, but I'll touch on those a little bit later. Beyond the entrance, we're greeted by this massive central chamber. Inside, ghosts emerge from an almost mirror-like pond, and I take in the scenery. The abandoned palace is quite massive, and inside there's a variety of necromantic enemies. After some exploring, we come across some kind of chamber with a weird stone in the middle. It's being protected by another undead soldier, but there's clearly something odd at play here. Why are there charred corpses? Why is the dwarven law on the wall? Why does this stone in the middle hurt me with weird energy if I get too close? Well, I can actually answer that last question. We've been told by various people that there's a powerful energy found around the Forgotten City. Luki, the city alchemist, has been treating a vigilant of Stendar who thought he could brave this force. He was almost killed immediately and put in critical condition. However, remember those immaculate dwarven gauntlets I spoke about? There are 4 pieces, and when all of them are equipped, they can shield the wearer from this mysterious aura. This embedded rock, or whatever it is just a taste, but this will be important soon. In the next room over, we find an ominous altar with a book titled The Myth of the Dwarves' Law. This is a decently long read, but it boils down to someone from the previous group who inhabited this city decided to test the law by punching someone. Clearly, their theory that the law was a myth didn't turn out that well, resulting in the entire population getting turned into these charred corpses. Really, the only other thing of note in the abandoned palace is at the end. A necromancer, Narnabas, can be found here along with his journal. He was experimenting on the burned corpses, trying to bring them back to life, and succeeded, only for them to turn on him. We're also left with a little surprise at the end. P.S. Look behind you. Oh my god, please don't be a jump scare. Oh. We report into Broll, the wizard. He shares some small insight on the necromancer, whom he knew briefly, but also tells us a bit more about the immaculate armor I picked up, confirming it can be used to shield myself from the harmful energy. Most importantly, the book I picked up from the altar troubles him. It's evidence the dwarves' law is real. One person can be responsible for the extinction of everyone, but it also puts forward the concept of a judge. Who or what is monitoring the city? There must be some omnipotent entity at work here, and one possible solution we have would be to destroy it. Right now, though, it's time for a swim to see if we can solve the mystery behind Dooley's chest. In the lake, there's a sunken house. In this house, there's a trap door to a massive sunken crevice. At the end of the underwater area, there's an opening into some kind of cave. Deeper inside, we're encountered by a group of Argonians who seem quite obviously interested in practicing cannibalism on a fellow lizard. Now, just like me, these guys should have water breathing, so I'm not completely sure why they didn't just swim through the crevice and exit out the other side, but maybe there's a reason. I learned that they found the chest I seek, but without the key, they couldn't open it and put it inside. I agree to attend their dinner party, and you won't guess what happens next.
It walks into our lair. My sister.
Yeah, like, what did you guys think was gonna happen?
We just wanted to feed.
I have so much food in my inventory. You guys could have asked for food, man. Inside the nearby tower, I find the chest left behind by Dooley's brother. In it is a quite troubling revelation. The note tells us that Dooley's brother found out something horrible about the Jarl and confronted him, leading to the Jarl killing him to keep the secret safe. This can be corroborated with his own daughter's journal at the start. The Jarl clearly has a more sinister side compared to the polite persona we met earlier. Also, inside the chest is a key, which he left for Dooley to give to the person he trusts most to hopefully figure out what the Jarl keeps behind his locked doors at the top of the Citadel. This is the beginning of the end. From this point forward, the story paths and endings can vary wildly. It truly becomes a choose-your-own-adventure from here on in, and there are many, many ways to conclude your experience. Before we get into all the ones I uncovered, if you're enjoying this video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing. YouTube recently took away ad block views, so it's a lot harder for me to see if this is something you're interested in. I'm not digging on ad block, you absolutely should be using one in this day and age, but your view is classified as botted or a machine in the analytics. However, your likes and comments still count. So if you want to see more stuff like this, consider dropping a like, commenting, and subscribing. If you have other mods you'd like for me to try, please comment them down below. Thank you so much for your consideration. Let's get back to the video. Armed with the information provided by Dooley's brother, it's time to confront the Jarl. On the near side of the top floor, there are 3 locked doors. As I make my way through them, I'm greeted with a horrible sight.
Oh gods, not again! Please don't hurt me!
Jesus Christ.
Thank the gods! Quickly, you have to let me down before that monster comes back.
Maisie, the wife of Olrin, is stripped down and locked against the wall, a puddle of liquid under her alongside a bucket and pile of rags. She has been here a while and begs for me to release her. Of course, my first reaction is to let her go, no questions asked. If you choose to do that, this happens.
What's going on in there?
There you are, you filthy pig!
What? No! If you attack me in here, you'll break the dwarves' law and kill us all!
After what you've done to me, I just don't care. The wall's cracked.
Oh no. What the hell?
Hi there. You gave me a bit of a fright. I thought I was in here alone.
We wake up transported back to our original timeline and are approached by Ultrius, the brother of Cassia from the very start. When we tell him our name, he says he was rooting through some old books and he saw it several times. It said we led an uprising against the Jarl, but in doing so triggered some kind of catastrophe. You have the option to present him with the note we found beneath the hanging body at the start. Turns out that old man was Ultrius. He recognizes his handwriting and thanks you for essentially saving his life. Together, we make our way back to his sister, and he also notes something interesting. He found no charred bodies besides the Jarl's in the bathroom. This is quite different than what we saw originally, so even this ending does have some ripple effect across time. Still though, this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the depth the finale offers in this mod. Going back to an older save, I decide to question Maisie first. She reveals that she's been stuck in this room for months while the Jarl has his way with her. We ask, wouldn't this break the dwarves' law? To which she replies that they're blind to this room. The dwarven busts that litter the city and all dwarven ruins that we've all seen 1,000 times watch. They report back to some kind of central apparatus to decide if a law is broken or not. The Jarl somehow knew this and broke the bust in this room, therefore they cannot see what conspires here. We confront the Jarl directly, who essentially confirms this. We can't leverage our way and force his hand, unfortunately. He just tells us to get out. The next thing I try is to report directly to the husband after discovering his wife. He gets up and beelines it straight to the Jarl and blows him to smithereens, also resulting in another ending. But clearly, there's some deeper options here. There's so many NPCs I've barely touched on, I was determined to find out what other secrets lie within. To make a long story short, we need to enter the underground tunnels, but to do that, we need the full set of the immaculate dwarven gear. We have the gauntlets from the abandoned palace, the boots from the now deceased Vigilant of Stendarr, and the helmet is laying on a burnt corpse on our way down. The last piece we require is the chest piece, which can be found on Rikus. This guy has been involved in a few other smaller quests. Primarily, he's a homophobe harassing the produce vendor for being gay. When you find one of his threatening letters in his house, you can confront him, but basically it just stops the harassment. You can't blackmail him for his armor, so you have one of two options. You can report him into the Jarl, who gives you a special way to get rid of him with his creepy knowledge of the city's blind spots, or steal it off him yourself without the involvement of the Jarl and trigger the Dwarves' Law, who then massacre everyone.
The many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
Now we trigger the apocalypse.
You must stop this from happening.
You there? Where did you come from?
Oh my god, it's a time loop. I thought it was just contained with like one time, like we just go back in time. But I guess we keep doing this over and over and over again until we solve the Dwarves' Law. So I still keep all my quest progress. So I got to keep the immaculate dwarven armor off of the guy I killed, which means I now have a full set, and I can go down in there. Now that we have the full set, we can venture into the final area of the Forgotten City. In the center of this massive underground chamber, we find another blue meteorite thing, much larger than the last one we saw in the abandoned palace. Underneath this dome, we find this. What the hell is this?
And here you are. I've been waiting for you, Dovahkiin.
You know who I am?
Of course. To me, your memories are an open tome. To begin with, I know you have taken many lives in cold blood. I know you have harvested the souls of the Dova, hoarding them, twisting them into an unnatural weapon against your enemies. I also know you have come from the future. And why is that? Is your desire for power so great that you would break even the laws of time for it? It makes no difference. You will not take it from me. You would not be so foolish as to break my law.
You mean the Dwarves' Law?
I mean my law. I made it because your kind would be incapable of order, of peace without it.
So that would make you...
That makes me the Arbiter. I am also the founder. I discovered this site millennia ago, and the deposit of Ethereum beneath us. I laid the foundations, and I watched my children grow and learn and use the Ethereum to create marvels, technological wonders. But they grew quarrelsome and used their knowledge to create weapons to use against their own kind, and worse, their own father. So I confiscated their weapons and declared my law that each and every one of my children would live in perfect order, or they would not live at all. And here I am, millennia later, still waiting for children worthy of this city. And for my patience, it seems my reward is a visit from you, Dovahkiin. Well, why have you traveled through time to come here? What is it you seek?
There are a couple alternate endings the player can unlock here. The first one I did was appeal to the Arbiter's sense of morality. I believe this can only be done if the player has slain Alduin, and you can convince him that yes, while you make mistakes, if it wasn't for someone like you, the world would have been doomed. He eventually agrees to stop, and that your argument makes sense. You're transported back to your timeline and awake in the same underground cavern, although this time, there's no blue rock, and a statue of you has been erected by the townsfolk down below. Altreus, once again, is the one to discover you, although this time, the city is much different than before. As you follow him on the way up, you discover town members, people you've had previous relationships with, and depending on if you did their quests or not, they remember you. The Forgotten City is alive and well, and the roof of the mountain has opened up, allowing the people to come and go if they please. Gulvar, the farmer, the first person we ever met, was appointed the Jarl after the city overthrew the old one, discovering what he did to Ulrin's wife. And just like that, we can exit the city at our own volition and return to Skyrim. Although, it's worth noting, this is not the complete ending. The ending I found with the most loose ends tied requires you to kill the Arbiter.
I see you have learned nothing from all this.
Holy sh... Oh my god. That guy's tough. Oh, there we go. We got him. Wow, that was actually a really hard fight. After defeating him, you can loot his helmet, which allows the user unlimited magicka while using shock spells. With the Arbiter's death, the city is purged once more, forcing you to escape to the lake house and restart the time loop. Now, you go back to the Arbiter once more, and this time, he recognizes something different about you.
I see there is a helmet in your possession. It does not belong to you. It's you. Kill me? That is not possible. And yet, I see you speak the truth. Do you comprehend what you are asking me to do? You are asking me to abandon millennia of work. The very thought of it grieves me. And yet, you have left me with no choice, have you? Well played, Dovahkiin. You will have your wish.
You awake once again at Altreus' feet, and essentially everything plays out again as we saw previously. However, this time, you've collected a secret item and unlocked a more robust ending than before. As an added bonus, if you're playing with the Dragonborn Gallery like I am, the Arbiter's helmet is a required piece to complete the display, along with the necklace Cassia gives you at the very end. As we exit the Forgotten City for the last time, credits appear on screen for all the people who made this mod possible. This project was so successful, the developers created an entirely separate standalone title, which was nominated for Game of the Year in 2021. As I said at the start, the Skyrim mod only takes about 4 or 5 hours to play through, so why not try the game built 5 years later on the success of the original? If you haven't played this game for yourself and wish to avoid spoilers, you can skip to my final review portion at the end of the video. Right now, I'm just going to be doing a light summary to highlight the major differences, so you can stick around if you like, but in the review portion, I will refrain from spoiling the standalone game in case you wish to try it for yourself. So, let's dive into the Forgotten City again. Our journey this time begins in the modern day, on Earth. No longer are we in a fantasy world. A woman on a riverbank in Italy rescues us after finding us drifting in the water. Our cell phone is broken, and we don't have any identification, so she asks us a few questions about herself to create our character. She asks me to find her friend Al, who I'm now realizing is probably a callback to Altreus. However, the introduction to this game, for the most part, is pretty similar, but the whole vibe is a lot darker and grandiose. Now that the devs didn't have the constraints of the creation kit, you can really see what they were trying to go for. Inside the ruins, we find a door and a note left by Al. He tells us of an ancient Roman city found underground, but as we step forward, the floor slides beneath our feet and we fall.
Could an underground city have remained a secret for all this time? Could people have survived down there, against the odds? It seems there's only one way to find out.
Little lore factoid about myself, I'm a huge Greek and Roman mythology nerd. All my electives were mythology related, even though I went to school for math. I still have a couple textbooks lying around. Although I love the Elder Scrolls, this environment is 10 times more appealing to me. They did such a phenomenal job with blending accurate human history and mythology. Anyway, sorry, back on track. As we continue on, we walk through the ruins of a city as a mysterious voice whispers at us. At the top of the hill, we find Al, hanging from a tree. His note is very similar to the one we found in Skyrim, with the major difference being that he doesn't try to stop us from going through the door, he just hopes we won't continue on. At the foot of the portal, we find human remains, the sacrifice of whoever opened this gateway, and we enter. It's like the Doctor Who intro. We're in the past. Oh my god. This is really cool. Like just seeing a Roman city. Our guide in this game is also a farmer, and he introduces us to some of the immediate places of interest around us. After a tour, we finally meet the magistrate, who gives us a familiar welcome. The law in this city is the Golden Rule, but principally it's the same. The many shall suffer for the sins of the one. Except, obviously, they turn into gold statues rather than burned corpses. We're left to our own devices to explore, and the first thing I do is break the law to see what happens.
The many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
Turns out, this is quite different. In this game, the law is much more responsive. You could steal or kill in the Skyrim mod, and sometimes nothing would happen. In this, it happens right away. No doubt a side effect of crafting the entire game yourself. The bandit sequence in the Skyrim mod, for example, didn't make any sense. Clearly, the law was being broken, murder was being committed. However, in the game, it's corrected. Any hostilities between you or the bandit will result in a cataclysm, so you have to talk your way out of it or get rid of them indirectly. Also, there's no machines to carry out the execution, rather the gold statues come alive and kill all the remaining townsfolk, turning them into gold statues. There's a few secret areas you can't get to unless you trigger this cataclysm, which is pretty interesting. There's a few callbacks to the Skyrim mod, but most of these NPCs are completely new with new content to complete. The most similar is Dooley, the homeless man. He's literally called Dooley again, and his quest arc is pretty similar to the mod, except this time he's locked in jail, and we can't help him until we find a way to free him, which requires us to sway popular vote to the farmer we met at the start, and to do that we have to intimidate the other candidate to drop out, who we only learn is an imposter because of the assassin. It's really well crafted and requires multiple attempts and conversations before you can even see a glimpse of the full picture. As an added bonus, this game has some really cool NPC AI where town members will walk up to one another and engage in conversation. Sometimes this can give you clues if you eavesdrop. For example, the magistrate's guard and the guard for the other political candidate get into an argument about the kidnapping of the current leader's daughter. This is not something I would have noticed had I not stuck around and listened, but it opens up new dialogue options with NPCs and a new lead to investigate. Another big difference in terms of gameplay is that the combat is obviously quite a bit more restrictive. There's very few weapons and no magic, so finding tools to use is much more impactful. If you choose to start off as a soldier, you get a gun, but everyone else needs to find their own. The bow is one of the most important ones. You can pick it up from the assassin who's here on the Emperor's orders. After resetting the time loop a few times, you're able to trick him into an unstable building and loot his weapon. There's a quest right after to trick the god Diana and swap out your normal bow for a mythical one that turns everything it hits into solid gold. This leads you to the abandoned palace. Similar location to the Skyrim one, but the story here is completely different. I also have to assume it's optional, since you're allowed to decline it if you don't like horror elements, but I can tell you now it's not too scary. There's essentially a priestess who's gone crazy after her friend turned into solid gold. She's been cutting away at the statues and figured out underneath the gold is human flesh and bone. You can hear the statues whisper to you from time to time, giving you clues on where you need to go and what you need to do. She used to hear them too, but they stopped once you arrived. This quest can play out several ways, but I was able to talk her down. Without going through every character arc, there are some others you may recognize, like Virgil, who's the counterpart to Vernon in the mod, a character being harassed for his sexuality, and you need to find the person responsible, who also, coincidentally, is the meathead soldier wandering around town. Ulpis is similar to Ulrin, his beloved mysteriously vanished, only to be found in a locked room where the only key is owned by the magistrate. Only this time, the woman locked up is the magistrate's own daughter who figured out how to escape, rather than a plaything like she was in Skyrim. This leads to one ending for the game, but it's not the true ending, and I really don't want to spoil you for the true ending. So if you ever plan to play this game, please skip to the final review of this video. Skip the upcoming true ending chapter because it is so good. You just have to experience it for yourself. Okay, you've been warned. After speaking to nearly every townsfolk, the priestess Equita is able to decipher a clue from all the information you've gathered. Everyone here arrived by river, carried to shore by a hooded figure, and all had a mysterious coin on their person. Back at the start, I asked the woman her name, and she told me Karen, which I thought was just a joke about the name being a meme, but Equita tells me it's not Karen, it's Charon, the ferryman of the dead. This can only mean one thing. We are in the underworld, the realm of Hades, or in Roman mythology, Pluto. Very few have ever escaped the underworld, all of which have been heroes like Hercules, Orpheus, or Sisyphus. We can either try to confront the god of the underworld head-on, or try to get the help of Proserpina, or Persephone in Greek mythology, to assist us. She's the god of life and renewal and created the ritual to allow us to travel back to time. Otherwise, it would have been game over if we messed up once. She's been helping us for some reason. She's the one whispering to us from the golden statues, but we're not quite sure why. Again, the story paths here split quite a bit, but this segment is for the true ending of the game, so I'll let you discover the other ones for yourself. We need 4 plaques. Each stood at the foot of an obelisk outside of a shrine at the top of the city that no one has ever been able to enter. One is Roman, one is Greek, one is Egyptian, and one is of unknown origins. One of the shrines in the city, the oldest, is Greek, not Roman. Inside is a secret door with a remnant of the previous society, a Greek philosopher surviving underneath the city. He is able to give you the Greek tablet, but gave the Egyptian one to a man named Kabash. As we dive deeper underground looking for Kabash, the realization begins to set in. The Roman city above was simply built atop a Greek city, generations older. As we delve even deeper, we find an Egyptian city built underneath the Greek one, and at the end of that path, we find Kabash. He gives us the Egyptian tablet, but says he also found the last one and must destroy it. He's mad at the Greeks for building over his ancestors' hard labor, and this other tablet he founds suggests that the Egyptians did the same to an even older civilization. He throws the tablet down a pit, and you dive in after it, only to discover the tablet wasn't lying. There was indeed another civilization before, the Sumerians. Oh my god, I can't tell you how cool this was to walk through. They even have traps. It felt like it was straight out of an Indiana Jones movie. At the end, we reach this massive chamber, and Kabash greets us again with a bow drawn. He set his mind on destroying you and the last piece of evidence that there was a society before the Egyptians, but in doing so, he breaks the golden rule. We have to run back to Persephone's shrine and go back in time once more. The Roman tablet can be found just lying around in the city, by the way. There's nothing super crazy about that one. We slot all 4 tablets into place, and the doors to the mysterious temple open. There are 4 more doors on our way, and each time we must announce a different name of the god of the underworld, in order from most recent civilization to most ancient. After the final door, this happens. What the hell? Are we on a spaceship? I did not see this coming. What the f... Is that Earth behind us? It is. What the goddamn hell is going on here?
Allow me to introduce myself. As you have already gathered, I've been known by many names. Nergal to the Sumerians, Osiris to the Egyptians, Hades to the Greeks, and Pluto to the Romans. But the one constant through it all has been my title, God of the Underworld.
You can sit and talk with the god of the underworld for 30 minutes, easily. He has so much to say. Major points, he's part of an alien civilization that came to Earth to see if they could influence our society to be more like theirs. They gave us tools, fire, agriculture, what have you, but eventually it was time for this spacefaring race to return back home. Humanity was deemed unworthy to travel with them, but Hades' beloved, Persephone, refused to leave us behind, certain she could save us. So, in order for Hades to carry out her wish, he made a deal with Zeus. Humanity would be allowed to join them if Hades could prove, under the right conditions, a truly good society was possible. The trade-off, to ensure this task was complete, was to turn Persephone human, so that Hades could not give up and was bound eternally until the experiment was complete. Obviously, Hades has been trying for thousands of years with no success, so it's up to you to convince him to break the cycle. The first time you come here, there is no way around it. You must fight him. Persephone whispers to you to break her cage and take her crown, and after doing so, you have to run all the way back to the portal to start a new attempt. When approaching the god of the underworld again, you can throw Persephone's crown at his feet, telling him you will kill her over and over again for all time until he stops the cycle. If he does, however, he will be forced to return home without his beloved and humiliated by the other gods. Although this is the true ending, ethically, there's no winners here. You have to feel sorry for him, despite the countless people he's tortured in the underworld. Reluctantly, he agrees and abolishes the Golden Rule. You wake up in the ruins of the Forgotten City, back in your time stream, and find Al. You leave together, and time flashes forward 1 year to a museum. Al has something to show you, and as you walk through the halls, you encounter all the people you saved on your journey throughout this game. I got the Steam achievement for saving all of them, but I don't think you need to for the true ending. You can chat with as many or as few of them as you like, but it turns out Hades just plopped them in modern day, like 2021, and they're all adjusting to the change. At the end of the museum is Persephone, who are finally able to meet in person along with every single golden statue from previous civilizations, all with their humanity restored. This is the end of the Forgotten City. Well, one ending at least. The other, with the magistrate and his daughter, is also fantastic. He proves to be some kind of villainous mastermind, unlike the Jarl in Skyrim, who kind of just abuses his power. But with that, let's jump into my final review. If you've jumped here from a previous part in the video, once again, I will confirm this will have no major story spoilers for the standalone game. You will obviously see some gameplay from both the standalone game and the Skyrim mod, but nothing meaningful if you wish to try it yourself, which I highly suggest you do. The Forgotten City is one of the best written Skyrim quests I've ever done in my life, and one of the best narratively designed video games I've ever played. Albeit both are somewhat short, between 5 and 7 hours. Really, it's more like 6 to 7, but I can't say that anymore. It's a fantastic ride. Although the Skyrim mod is phenomenal, the game is better. The voice acting is superior, the quest design is stronger, the world building, in my opinion, is also more interesting, but that's really your preference between fantasy and mythology. If you haven't played the standalone game and like the Skyrim mod, do it now. This thing goes on sale for like $5 on Steam. Pick it up, you won't regret it. It is fundamentally a more complete experience since the team didn't have to work with Skyrim's creation kit and could spread their wings a little. It's also a very accessible game to play. As you know, I play these games and mods completely blind for a more authentic experience, but I think I could give this to my mom or my sister, and with enough trial and error, they could figure it out, whereas they would not be able to do that for Skyrim. Combat is optional. You can skip quests requiring you to use weapons, and you could beat this game completely passively if you wish. As far as differences go, the main themes are slightly different. Skyrim's is a bit more horror-themed and mature, whereas the standalone game is a bit brighter, but more complex. The twist in the game is far more interesting and surprising compared to the mod, but on top of that, there's also more people, quests, and content to do. The time travel mechanic is way less important in the Skyrim mod. I think I only used it 2 or 3 times. You really don't have to use it that often. The game is the opposite, but they also added more accessibility where every time you time travel, you can tell your guide to run and solve all the things you previously figured out. Again, that's a benefit of not being confined to the creation kit. If you were to ask me how different the game is versus the mod, how different the actual adventure is, I would say about 15% overlaps. Repeating characters, repeating narrative arcs, repeating locations, but I also think if you didn't play them back to back like I did, they probably won't be as obvious, but there's clearly intentional callbacks to the original mod and an Easter egg here and there, but it's still very different. That concludes my review for the Forgotten City, both in Skyrim and on Steam. Of course, I will link both of these down below if you're interested in checking them out, and please, do yourself a favor and do that. It is unbelievable what the developers have been able to accomplish here, and the game is well deserving of the Game of the Year nomination. It's made by 4 people, by the way, phenomenal work. Obligatory shout out to my members who make these videos possible. If you want to support me directly and get early access to videos, exclusive content, and more, consider joining the channel. Special shout out to Jason, SauceDaddy86, Metalhead443, and Designated Medic for the additional support. I've been Frostbreak. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.